Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are glad to have you back on board for another installment of the NTC podcast. This is episode 129. I'm Aaron Washington, your host. Joining me this evening is no stranger to the pod, Shane Young. He does a lot of work for Forbes Sports. He covers the Suns in depth. He's at pretty much all their games, getting some exclusive coverage of their players and coaches and everything that goes on in Phoenix, pretty much. So, really glad to have Shane back on the pod. Shane, it's been a minute, man, but you're always welcome. We're always happy to have you, and you do great work in the NBA side. So thanks again for joining, man, and hope all has been well in your world.
Appreciate you, Aaron. It's always great. I feel like we have a couple of pods each season, and we're right at the midseason mark. No better time to kind of canvas the league and see what's going on and talk some, all-stars.
I can't wait, man. It's going to be a good one. As you said, we're pretty much at the halfway point. We are just under a month to go until the 2025 All-Star Game, which this year will be held in the Bay Area. I'm sure the players, coaches, personnel are all really happy that this year is actually in a environment that won't be extremely cold for once. It seems like every year it's like Toronto or New York or Indianapolis, somewhere like that. So this year being over at the Chase Center in the Bay Area, I think will be a great experience for everybody. But I am excited to get into this, man, because I don't know about you, but when I went through my starters and reserves, it was a little bit more difficult than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I found some first-timers that will, I think, more than likely make one of these teams. That'll be really exciting to kind of cover, kind of talk about how their seasons have gone so far. So without further ado, let's get into it here. Let's start with the Eastern Conference. So East starters, this is going to be pretty straightforward for some of the names here. Yeah. Jason Tatum, Giannis, pretty much locks. I have Towns as an East starter as well. Is that kind of the way you're leaning on that?
No, those three should be locks. I mean, there's really no center conversation to be had with how Cat has played.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. And I also noticed going through.
And there's no center, by the way. Right? Is that how they do that? I mean,
yeah, I think it's front court, three back court, front court. Okay. Yeah, 2 and 3. But I noticed going through the front court specifically, man. I mean, the front court for the East this year, man, is no. There's some good names in there. I don't want to make it seem like there's no good players there, but I was going through it. And I'm like, it's kind of lacking a little bit, especially since Franz and Paolo went down with injuries, missed significant time. That really kind of cut into the depth there.
Like Paolo would have been on. Let's just say, absolutely, positively on. Yeah,
100%. There's no doubt about that, especially with the way the Magic have been performing this season, rising the ranks to the East. That wouldn't be a question. But you got those three guys in the front court for the East. I have Donovan Mitchell as the fourth starter for the East. And I think a fifth starter could be a little bit up in the air. You could go Jalen Brunson. You could go LaMelo Ball. It kind of depends on who you ask. I went LaMelo Ball, but I want to see who you're thinking for that spot.
I'm actually shocked. Like I didn't
really?
think we'd go on that. I thought we would 1,000% agree on this. Dude, Jalen Brunson, I understand Jalen Brunson had a better year last year, probably just like maybe on-off stuff and just the way he was scoring. But I feel like every time I watch the Knicks, maybe it's that bias of just whenever I get to see them, which is not all 41 they've played so far, but it's probably been 25, 20. He's always had 30, 40 plus, and he's always it's just always efficient, and it's always so pretty too. Like I feel like he plays the right way. And I'm not trying to say LaMelo doesn't. It's just there's a lot more possessions with LaMelo, and I saw him in person here a couple weeks ago when the Suns beat the Hornets. But there's more possessions with him where it's just was that necessary? And I think there's not a lot of was that necessary in Jalen Brunson's game. I think every movement he has is necessary. I just think I'm always going to value the winning record over someone that's multiple games under 500. So that's just me. But LaMelo will be on my team. But I'm gonna go Jalen Brunson, and I'm gonna go lock.
Okay. Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like, I think there's a case to be made for sure.
Hmm.
And then I definitely agree. These two guys play extremely different styles. Like LaMelo will just try things just on a whim, like one-legged threes and things like
Yeah.
that to kind of see what works, and that brings a certain level of entertainment value for sure to the game. With Brunson, on the other hand, it's going to be a lot more of the using footwork, using the craftiness, using the left-handed nature of his game to kind of just create the smallest little openings to get things off. I think for
Yeah.
me, when it comes to all-star selections, historically, when I pick my teams, I don't factor in record as much as if
Okay.
I were picking All NBA or MVP.
Also,
More
you kind of flip what I, yeah, my methodology there is like, I, I'm kind of the opposite. Like when it comes to All Star, I want to value the winning versus All NBA. I kind of don't care as much, but
okay.
that's the beauty of this is that you can
Yeah,
have your methodology and I can have mine. That's awesome. Yeah.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, I guess when I'm like looking at the end of the season, I have um, the entire calendar to look at, the almost the entire season to look at, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, how have they done from October all the way through, how they prop their team up, and using almost every game of the season, maybe 70, 75 games, as opposed to All Star, you have like a little bit more of a limited scope to look at. But I mean, it's still a good sample size. I mean, half the season is a good amount of time to look at how guys have propped their guys up. And it's more of like a popularity contest I've found than, other awards. It's like, hey, who's going to be the most exciting? Who's going to be the biggest names and things like that. And, I don't want to go just off of entertainment value, but I think I kind of lean more in that direction than looking at like the advanced stats and team record and things like that. Although it's still important for sure. But like you said, it's just a different ways we think about it. So you got the starters there. You got the five. It very well could be Brunson as the fifth starter. For the reserves, this is I kind of want to start with some first timers. This is always exciting.
Yeah.
I look at what Cade Cunningham has been doing for Detroit and how much better they've been this year over last year. The way that he has just taken over certain games and just stuffed the stat sheet as he always has, but started to kind of like clean up some of the extras in his game with the turnovers and the efficiency and things like that.
Yeah.
One of my reserves and the first timer on my list is Cade Cunningham, just doing everything for Detroit. Especially when Jaden Ivey went down, man, he's really stepped it up with some pretty impressive performances against some pretty good competition. So I kind of want to give a shout out to Cade. But Shane, is that a guy you're looking at? Is that's going to be in San Francisco participating in All-Star Weekend for the first time?
Yeah, man, it's to the point where if he doesn't make it for some weird reason, then it could be one of the biggest like mistakes the coaches have made because coaches are going to pick reserves. To my knowledge, I think that's still how that goes. That All Star format has changed so much that I forget who even votes for what anymore. But
I feel that.
He absolutely has to be there. And honestly, take it a step further, they are about 3 to 4 wins off a pace to where I would say starter. Like if if they were 25 and whatever that 25 and 18, which is not out of the realm of possible play. It's just a few close losses. I think they always play close games too. Detroit is always in close games.
They are.
So just 3 wins off pace for me to say, okay, he should get that starting nod because of the numbers. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think you hit the nail on the head. This year, the most mind-numbing thing to me is 44% assist percentage. That is Chris Paul. that is Rajon Rondo stuff right there, and we don't think of that from this what is he six combo wing out there. It's pretty remarkable what he's been doing. Turnover stuff can get a bit wonky with him, but you know what I always say, it's like you can't fault the guy for trying and for being aggressive and assertive on offense, and especially with a team that desperately needs it. You're going to turn the ball over. You just are. So what he does late in games, it's pretty clutch. It's pretty awesome to see. Only going up. So absolutely, he's my first pick for that reserve.
I like that, man. I'm on Dunks and threes right now, looking at his impact as far as what he's done this season. And offensive estimated plus minus right now is plus 2.2. And that is in the 93rd percentile of all players this season. So just to kind of shed a little bit extra light on what Cade has done, I mean, he's solidified himself as an elite player. I think that much is clear. And yes, as you said, the turnovers, I mean, he's at 4.5 a game, which I didn't even realize until I double checked it, but he's got to cut that down a little bit. But even then, man, I mean, 9.3 assists per game, just to kind of touch on that point about the playmaking, really impressive stuff. He's making it happen for his teammates, and he's getting his own as well, 24.5 points a game, a pretty good bump from last season, almost 2 more points a game. So, yeah, really impressive stuff from Cade Cunningham. I love to see that.
Next step for him is increasing the 3-point usage, which will come. It's only about 32% of his shots right now. I mean, if we get that, how I am, if we can get that to 38, 39%, like I'm that's what I want. Not to sacrifice the driving, still drive, but also still generate your own threes when you can. I mean, then we're looking at a guy that's averaging 30 and 10, 30 and 9. So
for sure. Yeah, no doubt about that. I love what he's doing for the Pistons, and I love how they're playing. Really exciting time to be a Pistons fan. Finally, it's about time. But looking at another first-time All-Star, possibly in this conference, I look at what the Cavaliers have done this season, and nothing short of spectacular. I mean, I am just blown away. I did not see this kind of performance coming at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, they brought back pretty much the same roster, and they just kind of tweaked the way they play, and it's made a world of a difference. I mean, you lead on both ends of the floor, and that would not be possible without the play of Evan Mobley in the middle for the Cavaliers. The numbers aren't insane. I mean, he's not going to put up numbers that you would see from like an Anthony Davis or like a Wembanyama or something like that, but the impact is undeniable. And I've talked about him on this pod a couple of times, a couple of different episodes, and I keep going back to the fact that he's so much more aggressive as a player than he was last year. He's taking it to the defense. He's a willing shooter. He will take threes, but he will also get into the paint and try to make things happen, go into the chest of defenders. He's stronger. He's more confident. And it's kind of really showing in every facet of his game. He's still a great rim protector, great defender. He's putting it all together essentially this season. So I want to give a shout out to Evan Mobley. He's a big part of what the Cavaliers do. He's taken some of that usage away from Donovan Mitchell and some of the responsibility, and it's allowed Donovan to kind of pick his spots a little bit more, be fresher, and enabled and empowered Mobley to be a real game changer for the Cavaliers. So that's another name I have on my list. And, I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, and honestly, it gives you those Hawks vibes from 2015 because it's like what next Cav is the next one to be on? Is it Mobley? Is it Garland? Like which one is going to be that guy that's an unquestionable second Cavalier? Because I got to get to maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 4. But I just think that it's got to be Mobley for me. Everything you said, the lineup versatility that he provides. I mean, just looking at his position, like the minutes he's the position distribution for him, 51, 49, 51 at center, 49 at the 4 this year. So I mean, it's been, he's been able to give you the small ball, been able to give you the dual big lineups, and their offense has not suffered. That was the big thing, right? Like if they're going to play 2 bigs, their half court offense was going to suffer. And we saw that in that first round series, which was a rock fight against Orlando. But could you think about that? Could you imagine that offense compared to what it is now? Like it's a night and day difference. Like it was a struggle to watch that team in April last year. And now it's the best offense in NBA history. It's pretty crazy the turnaround. So gotta be him. I agree with everything you said there.
Yeah, the 3-point percentage is crazy. I mean, he was starting to make strides last season, but he was only up about 1.2 attempts per game on 37%. This season, I mean, he's over doubled it. He's gone to 2.8 on 42%. So still doesn't shoot a lot, but he's making them. He's keeping the defense honest, and he's giving extra opportunities to his teammates to get things going in the paint. So I mean, that's really impressive for sure. After that, it's tricky because as I mentioned to you before we started this pod, the front court of the East is, I would say, a little sketchy. It's not quite as deep as I've seen in years past. So this next name, I was kind of on the fence, but I decided to put him in because I'm just like, man, you got to have front court players, and he's one of the better ones that I've seen, at least that's healthy. I went ahead and I gave Siakam a spot on this team as well. The Pacers have been a lot better in 2025. I believe they're 8-1. They have a pretty good net rating over that period of time. Yes, it's a small sample, and he's not going to wow you with some of the numbers. He's not going to be one of the top, whatever players in the league. But with who is healthy, who is available, and if we're factoring in performance, especially in the short term, I think Siakam has earned himself a spot. It's only about 20 points per game, but I mean, he does a little bit of everything for the Pacers. He kind of enables a lot of the different actions that they use. Playing a big part in getting that offense going, and still a solid defender alongside Turner in the middle. So with him, not the sexiest name, but I mean, if we can't go with Paolo, we can't go with Franz. Both guys at the same injury, which still blows my mind.
And that's the thing, man. Like, you're right. I hate to even say it this way because it's going to sound like a slight to Pascal, but to me, you put him in just by default because there's no other real fours or threes that are sticking out. He's not a first time All-Star. Like he's been an All-Star two other times, right? So I think for me, it's more like Jaylen Brown. If he's classified as the three, which he has played like 65-70% of his minutes at the three this year, then Jaylen Brown for me is like a given. If Boston's got to have multiple, I think, or like 30 and 13. So Jaylen Brown and Pascal almost automatics because you have to acknowledge what they've done. And Indy's been on a tear. I think fourth best offense over the last couple weeks, 3 weeks since 2025 turned. So he's got to be on there. If you leave him off, it just doesn't make sense because you said all the other guys are injury. They're banned because of injuries.
Because who else would make that spot then if he's not on there? I guess that's the problem I ran into.
Well, the answer, honestly, and people don't like this, but the answer is to just let us do it 12 straight. Doesn't matter if it's 12 guards. Doesn't matter if it's 12 bigs. Doesn't matter whatever. The 12 most deserving. But when I say that, it kind of comes across as Pascal doesn't deserve it, which he does. So
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the Pacers, they're 8-2 in the last 10 games. They've risen to number 5 in the Eastern Conference. They're only a game behind the Bucks for 4th. So, I mean, they're almost back in home court advantage territory. And, I mean, I think at the lowest point of the season, I mean, they were 10th, 11th. So, I mean, they've really made a jump the past 6 to 8 weeks, I would say.
Oh, by the way, I don't think we've even, unless I misheard you, we haven't mentioned Joel Embiid is not available. He's a front court slot here easily every single year, just sharpied in. And then Paul George would be in consideration if he was good and he was healthy. He's been neither. He's been neither this year. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
So those are just names off the top that we're not even considering.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, between the injuries and just inconsistent play, I mean, it's opened up. What is that? 4 spots already we talked about between 2 Magic players and then 2 Sixers players. A lot of extra room here for first timers and other guys that have been
Jimmy
here before.
Butler. We're not considering Jimmy Butler, right? I mean, I don't. I guess we should we consider? That's a good question. Should we consider? I mean, how many games has he played? Has he hit your imaginary line of games that because really there's no barometer you could put anyone in. We're not putting Paulo in obviously, but there's no number that we have to abide by.
So he's played 24 games so far out of the 41 that the Heat have played already. So he's borderline for me. I mean, I guess you could make a case for him. I'd say maybe that's probably the absolute minimum amount of games I would want to see a guy play to get in. But yeah, it's tough because by his standard,
it should be 7 more than that. It should have been 7 games more than that 24. But
exactly. Well, as we know, things have happened, and it's been a rocky past few weeks for him and the team. So but I think by his standards, he's been a little bit down. So that paired with the number of games, I can't really give him a spot, at least in my mind. Although he's still been solid for them, of course, and he had a couple of huge games back, I think, last month. So good player, but this year I don't see it. I don't see I don't see it happening. So the rest of the spots here, it gets interesting. So we talked about Jaylen Brown. I don't think he's had the best season by his standards.
No.
Like you said, Celtics still near the top of the East. Representation, 2 players, it makes sense. He's still been solid. So, and it's been a shallow front court for the East. So taking all that into account, you can. It makes sense.
I think, and the funny thing is a guy that is also not in consideration is Porzingis, because he missed 2 months right off the bat, and I think it's funny because on a per minute basis, he would be my second Celtic just off of production. Like he's been really good.
I agree.
But he's played less than 20, so can't even consider.
It's not going to fly.
Not
going to fly. So you have Jaylen Brown for another front court spot. That makes sense. We've talked about, I guess for you, it'd be LaMelo, one of those reserves. For me, it'd be Brunson, Cunningham, Mobley. I have Trae Young as one of my wild card spots. Looking at what he's done, I mean, Atlanta, man, they've surged as well. I mean, their offense is cooking. Trae Young is a big part of that. This is a stat that blew my mind, Shane. I don't know if you saw this, but Trae Young, he's in year 7 now. He has more assists than what was it, 97% of players in NBA history or something like that. Did you see that?
Oh, no, I didn't see that. So his up to this point or just in general?
It didn't specify. I was thinking in general. That was the way I interpreted it.
Oh, wow. And he's only played 7 years.
Yeah. I mean, he's racking them up.
I have to see where he is on the list. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if he's at double digits almost every year of his career, I mean, it tracks. He's at, 10, 11, 12 every year. He's really just dropping dimes. And
it never makes sense to me why coming in that the Steph comps, because it was always Steve Nash. It was always Steve Nash, and people just didn't. They saw the shooting, but they didn't focus on what actually mattered.
Right. So, I mean, with the shooting and the handle, there's a little bit there, but no, his primary skill and role out there on the court is to just open up things for his teammates. 11.7 assists this season. I mean, his career average, for dimes, if we're going to take a look at that, I mean, almost 10 is his career average. So, I mean, he's been doing this at a high level since he got drafted. I mean, he was at 8 assists a game in his rookie year and just went up every year from there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can nitpick the scoring a little bit and the efficiency. I mean, he's back down to about 35% from 3, but he can make deep ones and he shoots enough of them to keep the defense honest. So there's that. The efficiency overall isn't the best, but man, I mean, he is the engine for a Hawks team that, as of today, is number 6, and they're only about a game and a half behind Indiana for 5th.
Yeah,
they had a rough start as well. I mean, they were down to 10th, 11th as recently as last month. So if we take that into account, I mean, I think he's deserving of a spot too. As one of those guards there. So I had to give him a spot there and give him a shout out because he's been scrutinized a lot in the past. To the point where I think he's become underrated because he really is a fantastic player. Just the circumstances haven't always been the best for him. But no, I think he should be in as a reserve.
Yeah, one of the best offensive engines in the league, and just needs the defensive help to insulate him and the team. So, but yeah, it's funny seeing a team that's in the top 6 with a -2 point differential. But I think you're right. They got to have representation. If it's not Jalen Johnson, if he's not quite there, then it's Trae Young.
Right. And to top off the Eastern section, Shane, I have a few names that I was thinking about putting on. I was very close.
I got one name that I don't know what to do with this guy.
What you got?
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So it might be one of your guys. I don't know. But you mentioned Jalen Johnson. I have him as an honorable mention because he has been great this season. Garland, another guy we mentioned, Cavaliers team that's been great. Tyler Hero is a name I really wanted to put on here. I ran out of spots. I'm like, man, he's been so good, and he's really done a lot he's been Miami's lifeline. Where would Miami be without Tyler? I have no idea. Really bad.
It's not their all-star is not Idris. It's not Bam.
No, it's definitely not Bam. I mean, this is I think one of his worst seasons since I don't even know when. Probably the last 3 or 4
Kentucky.
years. Kentucky, that's valid. I mean, this has been yikes. But those 3 names I think are deserving. I think they've all done a lot for their respective teams, getting them to this point, but just ran out of spots. And if we did go top 12 and didn't factor in positions, maybe 1 or 2 of these guys would be in. That's just something to think about.
Yeah.
Was your player one of these, or was it different?
You didn't even name them yet. It's weird because the team is 24-17, and he's averaging 25 points and shooting 50% from 2, almost 40 from 3. Like Dame Lillard, I have no idea. Lillard. Like I don't even know what do we do with him.
Oh,
because he's better than last year. Okay.
Yeah.
And he made the All-Star team last year. I understand that it doesn't work that way because there's more talent to consider per year. So just because he made it last year doesn't mean anything. But like, he's been better, and I just don't know. It's not like Milwaukee is trash. I mean, they're the NBA Cup champions
as well. Last 15 or so games, 20 games.
Yeah. So he is one that I have on my sheet right here. I have LaMelo Ball / Damian Lillard because Melo's the scoring's ridiculous, right? But the losing is also ridiculous.
That is
yeah. I'm gonna reserve that one. I know this isn't good for podcasts, but I'm reserving that one for when I actually write it. I don't know what to do with Dame. I want to put him on. I've seen a lot of people put him on their list, but I don't know. For me, Darius Garland's in. He's just in. He's in a wild card spot for me.
I got you.
I'm giving the Cavs 3.
That's fair. That's fantastic.
Can't give him Jared Allen. Not enough spots.
Nope.
Not enough spots. But
unless you're the 60-win Hawks, you don't get 4 players.
so I'm. I guess to answer your question, I'm hard cutting Tyler Hero, Zach LaVine, Tyrese Maxey, Derek White, all these names. There's a lot of guards.
There are a lot of guards. A lot more guards that have a case for one of these spots than front court players.
Yeah,
it's just kind of weird, the balance of it all, but it happens. But Dame. I thought about him. I think at the beginning, and I started listing guards, and for some reason I didn't put him in here. But I mean,
he hasn't had those memorable moments.
Yeah, he has a case for sure. So if he's in, it's fair. Maybe he gets in instead of Trey. I mean,
no, I can't do that. I just can't do that though. I mean, I don't know.
I
guess to be for clarity, I guess for absolute clarity, let me put. I got as my reserves: Cade, Trey, Mobley, Siakam, Jaylen Brown, wild card Darius Garland, wild card LaMelo or Dame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, these spots, I think when you get down to the last probably 2 spots, it gets tricky. It gets tricky because you're in the Garland territory.
Yeah.
You're in Trey, you're in Dame, LaMelo maybe for some people. It is tough.
Mm-hmm.
But
the East is in good shape moving forward. Really good shape.
For sure. Especially with those.
And imagine this next year if we got the Orlando guys and we got the Philly. No Philly All-Stars, 0 on this list right here. Oh, my gosh.
Man, Siakam and Brown would be gone for me. Those 2 guys would be gone, and it would be the Magic guys for sure. Hopefully next year we can get some representation there. So let's head on over to the West and see who we have here. I won't spend a lot of time on the West. I think for me at least, maybe 1 spot that you can make a case for. Shane, do you have Steph Curry as a West starter?
I don't.
I don't either.
And that's probably a shocker.
I want to make sure because I don't, but I wanted to see because I've seen some people put him on there and I was like, I can't.
I feel like our West starters could probably be. I think they're probably gonna be different here, which is cool. Like this is probably the first year in a long time that no matter who you talk to, you're probably gonna have a different starting five. Me and you didn't have the same starting East.
That's true.
So,
that's true.
Yeah.
So I had Shea and as a starter. This is the one that's borderline. I would say I put Ant as a starter, but I had to think about that a little bit.
2 for 2 for me.
Okay. AD, Wemby, and Jokic were like my last three.
You're one letter off. One letter off.
So close.
Not AD, KD for me.
KD. Okay. KD. All right.
Yeah. That's is it homerism? I don't know. Is it local bias? I don't know. But I think Kevin's
Hey, listen, you said it, not me.
Yeah. I think he's been awesome. The Lakers have a better record for sure. But I think KD's still deserving. He hasn't missed a lot of games. Right. So that if that's it's funny that we were one player off in the East, we're one player off in the West. So I got Shea, Ant, KD, Vic, Nikola Jokic.
KD is still elite. I mean, at 36 years old, he's still one of the best players in the league. 27 a game. I mean, it's just clockwork for him.
You see what he did to Detroit the other night?
I didn't see the game, but I heard about how he just demoralized him, which is he tends to do that. That's they don't call him a Slim Reaper for nothing.
Yeah,
he's different. So you got the West starters there. One or two players. You can make a case for them. When we get to the reserve, so I guess for me, KD would probably be my first reserve. For you, probably be AD to kind of start off that unit.
Yeah,
and then from there, I went. I'm interested to see how this shakes out when we get to the bottom of this. But I put Booker in there, LeBron, Jaren Jackson, J-Dub, and Sabonis are my reserves. This is going to be interesting. Do you not have Booker in there? Is that the one
I
that
don't.
Kind of really?
Wow. Okay, let me just say that I wrote this. So I'm looking at the list that I made like before 3 games ago when Booker decided to go for 30 every game, right? Yeah. Like even then though, I can't. I just can't. I mean, it's now maybe since I have a couple of the wild card spots here open because I need to talk through it. Maybe he slides there, but he's definitely not in like the guaranteed non-wild card spots for me.
Gotcha.
They're 500 or one game below. No, they're 500, and it's just it hasn't. I think he's still shooting 44% this year, somewhere around there. It just hasn't looked pretty a lot of the times. Yeah. So I'm just giving Phoenix 1 right now, and
that's fair.
That's
fair. So who would you slide in instead of that spot?
Right now, I have Steph Curry, reserve guard, Jalen Williams, reserve guard. Am I allowed to put him as a guard? I mean,
hey, listen, on this pod, sure, go for it.
Okay.
I don't know if they've taken on the official ballot, but here I'll let it fly.
Okay. Jaren Jackson, forward. Domantas Sabonis, forward. AD on there. So I'm down to 2 wild card spots. I guess the answer is to put Jalen Williams on a wild card because he can't fit in the. I guess that's what it is. But to me, I think he deserves it easily over Booker. But if we had to stick to rules, then I guess I have an open guard spot there. But I got news for you. Like I'd probably consider James Harden before I would Booker.
Okay. Harden was probably my first cut. He was my first honorable mention. But I think he is deserving. Let's talk about the Clippers here for a second because, man, they have 3 guys deserving. I mean, this is crazy.
Is Zoo one of yours?
Yes.
Okay,
absolutely an honorable mention. Every time I look at the stat sheet, 25 and 15, 25, 17, 3-ball. I'm like, is this Zubac or AD? Like, I don't know. Like, what is going on? What happened to him this season? He just became possessed, along with Norman. Both of those guys have just been incredible. I mean, Norman has had some insane shooting games. I'll see 8 for 11. I'll see 6 for 9, 7 for 11 from 3. I'm just like, this dude's just cooking. It doesn't matter what the defense throws at him, what the opponent is. He is getting buckets. And, I mean, geez. I mean, at 31 years old, he looks like one of the most improved players in the league, which is crazy to say. But
did you see that stat about this will be the first time in NBA history that a player at that age has jumped that much in points?
I didn't see that, but no, I'm not
Crazy.
surprised at all. That is a wild stat.
I think here's now this is a nuance. I'm curious. I'm curious about your take on this. It's a bit of a nuanced take, but the thing I have about Powell is like he goes on this media tour. He went on a bunch of podcasts, a bunch of shows, did a bunch of articles about like how he deserves this All-Star bid and this is the best he's ever played, all that stuff. And yeah, he's been awesome. I love to watch the guy. But you can't in the same breath, and almost every one of these interviews he does, he talks about like, having people ask him about having Kawhi back, what's that going to do for you guys? And he talks about like, I'm getting like me and James are getting the defensive attention now, and having Kawhi back is going to alleviate that. And it's like, can't say that whenever James Harden is getting most of the defensive attention. Like watch how Harden's still guarded these days. It's blitzed on pick and rolls, get the ball out of his hands, don't let him dictate the action. Like Harden is the reason that the Clippers offense flows the way it does, and the reason Powell finds himself attacking an unbalanced defense on a lot of possessions. Not all the time, but on some of the times. And I think if they're going to have one, which you can't give the Clippers two. I can't see that.
No,
I just can't.
No.
If it's going to be one, it's Harden, and if it's neither, fine, but it can't be Powell. And I've seen people consider Powell. To me, I didn't even put him down on the list.
That's fair. I mean, when you look at what Powell's doing, it is incredible. But I mean, he is he's a scoring threat, and that's what he does. He's doing his role very well. But I mean, Harden is like everything for them. I think the Clippers would have, what would you say, 5+ less wins if Harden is out of the lineup? I mean, because their offense, and I'm sure you know this from watching them this season. I mean, their offense, even with everybody healthy, is sketch at times. Like, I don't have it in front of me, but they're probably like maybe an average offensive team. And
they're always in the. Every time I do my chart, they're always in the red.
Yeah. So. Yeah, their offense has always been kind of up and down. Their defense is where they make their money between Chris Dunn and Derek Jones Jr. and Zubac. Like that's where their bread is buttered, so to speak, is on that end of the floor. But yeah, I agree with you there. I just really, man, Shane, I remember last year when the reserves came out and I watched it on TNT and they listed the last name. I don't remember who it was, but it wasn't Sabonis, and I almost lost it because I'm like, this dude's doing everything.
Who was that?
Triple doubles, double doubles, and everything like that. I wish I could remember who the last player to make it was.
I remember that. It was wild because I didn't put Sabonis on mine. And
I remember because I think we did a pod last year about this, and I had Sabonis. I remember you saying you didn't have Sabonis, so it was one of the players where we differed. But I mean, I'm going again this year. I'm doubling down. I'm like, he has to be on this team because I mean, for what he does for this team, I mean, it's everything. It's insane. So I mean, I really just want to see him get a spot here.
And it is, the West has the same kind of issue as the East, where like last year Kawhi made it, right? Because he didn't miss a lot of games. He played a lot of games last year. Kawhi made it, and so now he's not even in consideration. Zion not even in consideration. Right. So it's all these guys that you look at, like Lauri Markkanen. I mean, 10-31 Utah Jazz, I think Markkanen made it last year, right?
Was it last year?
Or he made it the one in Utah, the one that was in Utah.
Yeah, I think it was the year before.
Yeah. So it's like, that's probably my biggest weakness is remembering who made the All-Star team the year before, but you're right. And last year we didn't have Ja because of the stuff going on, right? So I don't know, man. Like they run into the same problems this year. And poor Jamal Murray will never make it.
No,
never. It's over.
Yeah. So that's so bad. I mean, it's the same problem that a lot of players before him have run into. Mike Conley, CJ McCollum. He's not the first person to fall victim to the Western Conference curse. De'Aaron Fox, who I've seen some lists with De'Aaron Fox on it. I couldn't quite get there, but I mean, no, I think he's been awesome. But I mean, it's the West, so I mean, sometimes you're going to miss out.
But I think those three bigs that we just talked about, AD, Sabonis, and Jaren Jackson, rock solid cases. Can't argue against either of them, right? Or any of them. Yeah. Jaren Jackson, I don't know if you've seen him in person, man, but I had a moment, like it was on New Year's Eve, they were here without Ja. The first game he missed with that AC joint sprain. I've never seen a center, and I guess you could argue Jokic, but even Jokic doesn't do this. I've never seen a center handle and dictate the way Jaren does. It's funky to watch. It's like, man, you are a big, slowish center, and he's out there in the perimeter making things happen, and they won the game, and he had like 40 points. It works.
It really does. I watched him yesterday in that matchup against the Timberwolves, and I saw the same thing. Like, there'll be possessions to where like he grabs it, he goes, and he has it around the back and a crossover or whatever. He gets into the paint, he throws up some funky looking floater or something and makes it happen. Yeah. And then, he'll be launching his catapult jump shots where he just kind of flings it up there. But I mean, it works. Like, the dude is he's hooping. He's healthy. He's still a force on defense, but the offense has really stepped up. And I think last year, the reps that he got as being on ball and being one of the primary creators for them, I think it's helped him a lot this season. Now he doesn't have to do all that. He has Aldama next to him, and he has Zach Edey and all the other support. He doesn't have to do it, but in times where he needs to, or he just feels empowered, he's been great at it. So shout out to him.
Sure. It's tough, the wild card spots in the West, but
yeah, I think it's even tougher than the East, to be honest. With spots, because I mean, it's more balanced. It's not like, oh, we have all these guards and no forwards. I mean, there's a lot of guards and forwards that are deserving.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's kind of where things stand right now. So we're going to end off this pod with the tournament format, which for this year is different. For those of you that don't know, it is now going to be a tournament format, which features 4 different teams, all that have 8 players. So they're going to split the 24 All-Stars into 3 teams to 8. And then they're going to have a 4th team that's comprised of only Rising Stars players. So I believe it's going to be the winning Rising Stars team that's going to join the All-Star tournament for 4 teams. There's going to be 3 games total. So you'll have the first round, you have those 2 games, and then you have the 2 teams that win go to the final, and they'll play each other. Of course, there's prize money involved. I think if you win, all the players get like $100K, and second place is $50K. I mean, for a lot of these guys, it's chump change. The Rising Stars win it. If they win it, though, that's some pretty good money. So I'm sure they'll be motivated. Shane, let's get right into it, man. I personally, first off, I respect the NBA for trying something new. It's obvious that the game needs something new, because what's been going on the past few years is an abomination, a disgrace. It has to change. You can't keep doing that. So I get that. But, I mean, all you're doing is just increasing the number of games and shrinking the number of teams. It's still All-Stars playing All-Stars, except for the Rising Stars. And now these guys, there's less reserves. So each team has 3 reserves instead of 7. I don't think the games will be that long. I think it's up to 40 is the total they're going for. But I don't really see this solving the problem that we have overall with the All-Star games themselves. Is that something that you've been thinking about as well?
Yeah, and I kind of go back to what you opened it, said like it was an abomination and something had to be done. While I agree it was an abomination, I disagree that something had to be done, because they have tried, they have failed, and the only way, literally the only way to get back to 2013, 2012, which is what I think a lot of us think about when Kobe and LeBron and CP and D-Wade and all these guys were aggressive and walked away with bloody noses and all that, right? The only way to get back to that is there has to be incentive. There has to be a reason for them to go all out. And nowadays, players are seeing catastrophic injuries in games, and with how fast, and I wrote about this on November 30th. I have my article up right now, and I, with how fast the game is now, how much movement, um, all the athleticism that we're seeing on display, players don't want to risk anything because guess what? They already get ridiculed. Kawhi is a big example of this. He already gets blasted by people, and I'm disgusted thinking about it, about how he's not available in the playoffs. Like, could you imagine if someone got hurt on February 16th and they were out until May, and therefore their team has no chance to win? So, it just the fans would be irate about that too. So they're in a no-win situation. The players are no win. Um, Now, I guess you could argue just because you go all out in the All-Star game doesn't mean you're going to get hurt. Like players, you can get hurt walking down the street. True. I just think that they're all smart now and they're all about mitigating risk there and maximizing their championship window. So I think that the league just needs to let the nostalgia go, and Adam Silver probably just needs to stop messing with it to this degree. And if you're going to change something, change the incentive. You're telling me that they can't come up with more money, like even more money for these players? Like they could.
Yeah.
The NBA Cup has worked. I would say it's been a mild success. I wouldn't say it's been booming because I think I still have problems with the NBA Cup, as in like you don't know off the top of your head the groups that you're in or that your team's in.
That's a problem. Still a little wonky there. I agree with that.
So with this format, I'm not a fan of it. Kevin Durant's not a fan of it. All these players are like, should we have done that? Let's go back to East versus West. I think go back to traditional, but let's give them a reason to want to win the game.
Right.
Can't be home court advantage in the finals. Cannot do that. Can never do that.
That's too far in the other direction. It's overpowered. It would throw off the rest of the season.
So I think people are missing the mark here. It's not about how the game is played. It's why should I want to win? And
that's
we haven't been given a reason for that yet.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, when I say something needs to be done, I mean, I would say that's a one route they could take. So, I mean, when I say that, I mean like anything except what you did last year. So, I mean, whether it's more prize money, whether it's the format changing, like anything that you can do to shake it up, to get players to be more motivated, I'm down for it.
Until we see a reason for think about this example because we're going to see it. We saw it last year. Dame pulling up from 45 feet, right? Like until we see a reason for a player not to do that, or we see a reason for LeBron or for someone to let LeBron go down the lane unscathed or go down the lane for an alley-oop dunk to just watch him walk by. We need a reason for that not to happen, and we haven't been given that yet.
Yeah, and the reason needs to be not just winning, but like winning for a real purpose, like something that makes a difference. So yeah, I'm with you. And people have floated around ideas for the last 2 or 3 years about like what that incentive can be, because of course, money is the obvious one, but people have mentioned other ones like home court advantage and a tiebreaker scenario. You know, if you tie with another team, you get it automatically. Like things like that have been tossed around.
And let's be honest, you're right. Let's be honest though. Like let's go back to 2013. I could hear people now saying, "Well, Kobe, and D Wade during that intense All-Star game, like they didn't have incentive. They was just pride, pride in the line." That's true. But we can also acknowledge that teams are smarter now. Teams are so smarter now.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to jeopardize their guy missing 15 games with a broken nose or something.
Right.
Like teams are smarter, and we just have to understand that. So.
Yeah, I get that. I guess my thinking with that in mind is, I mean, there's teams of 12 players. So it's not like these guys need to go out there and play 30 minutes or even 20 minutes. And not only that, but the game is, whatever it is, it's 4 quarters. And if you go out there for 2 quarters and, you did what you did last year, okay. and then give the fans something. I can't remember what year this was. Maybe it was like 18 or 17. But I remember that fourth quarter. I mean, this is back when it was like Kyle Lowry and John Wall and players like that.
Was this Elam ending?
Uh,
Because hey, let's bring that
yeah,
back. Like permanently.
yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
they've changed that around too. But I remember it was a fourth quarter and players really dug in and got physical. I was like, this is what we want. Even if it's only for a few minutes, that would be great because it's like, yes, there is risk with injury, but if you can mitigate that risk and you can trim it down to where, okay, the main guys only play 10 minutes
Yeah.
or, you're only going all out for one quarter or one half or something like that. I think that would bring a lot of the joy back to the game, at least for the fans. So you could do that maybe on top of an incentive. Maybe that would get players more involved and it would like save the game because as it stands right now, it's just kind of floundering and no one wants to see that.
Yeah. And the problem with that is like, well, we got to make sure the game is close to where that fourth quarter can actually be exciting because you
Right.
can't dig in and be aggressive like Kyle Lowry in the fourth quarter if it's a 15 or if it's a 25-point game.
True.
Like it's
Yeah.
got to be close. So how do you make it close? Man, it's tough. I don't envy the job that they got to do, but Adam Silver's. Did you hear some of the quotes he said when they come up with this new thing? He's like, "I give up." Like he's tried everything. Like that's kind of what the tone was. I hope it works. I'm skeptical.
Me too.
But
Me too. I will say the one glimmer of hope here, though, and even though this kind of goes against the traditional format of the All Star game, but having that fourth team be Rising Stars players,
yeah,
that could introduce some more excitement because number one, the veterans probably are going to go out there and say like, oh, or some of them at least might say like, we got to show these guys who's in charge here. Like this is whoever it is on this team. You have first and second year players that are coming up and they're like, oh, we're on the scene now. The veterans may say like, oh, let's go out there and show them why we're still the best. And then number two, you're going to have that Rising Stars team have incentive to just go out there and beat the veterans to kind of put themselves on the map, kind of like the Pacers did last year with the NBA Cup. Going back to that, like this is a chance for us to like up our popularity level and our cachet in the league. So if both teams are incentivized by that, maybe it could introduce some more competitive games, and if that extends to the final game, like if the Rising Stars win the first one, they get to the second game and it's, LeBron and KD and these guys playing, whoever's on the other team, like, Wemby and, guys like that. And it's like, oh, that could be interesting too. So
the league had the league had a really good thing with the player draft. It's just once the player draft was over, the game was a disaster. Yeah. But the player draft, like that was the most I cared about the All-Star game ever. Like just watching them. Remember that year that in Cleveland or Utah that they picked them on the stage?
Yep.
Like that, like I like that a lot, but the game itself,
Like I said before, to kind of bring it back full circle, I'm glad that the NBA is at least they're aware there's a problem and they're trying to rectify it. Even if it doesn't work, even if it's just more of the same, at least there is some effort there. So I guess all we can do now is just kind of hope for the best, and we'll see what happens in a few weeks here. But with that being said, Shane, I think we're gonna sign off here. But thanks again for taking the time here to go through our teams, kind of see where we had a few differences here. But I love hearing your rationale and why your guys were in, and all that good stuff. So thanks again for joining, man. It was a great time as always.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we'll have to get together next time we're in the same city. But yeah, man, it's fun. I think this year it's been weird to follow the NBA, all these storylines going on. But you look around, it's end of January. We have All-Star coming up, and I can't wait.
Same here, man. So if you guys are looking for more content like this, you can check out our website, which is going to be notradeclause.com. Our socials, of course, are notrade_clause on Twitter X and No Trade Clause, all one word, on Instagram. We have more content coming up on there. We're going to have some more updates coming up to our website. We just had a recent trade. Shane, I'm sure you just saw this. The
Mhm.
Suns trading their 2031 unprotected to get 3 picks back from Utah. So that's an interesting development. So we're going to update those picks over on our site, on our draft capital page. And then, of course, we have our cap sheets and things like that you guys can check out at your leisure. So thanks again for following us for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And we hope to see you on the next installment of NTC. Take care, everybody.